Hi, and welcome to Teen Art Club. Today we're going to be doing fake stained glass. So, what you're going to need for this project is you're going to need any size frame that you want. You can pick them up pretty cheap at a dollar store if you want, or you can get something more expensive, but really all you're going to need is the outside frame part and the glass. You're going to need an outline photo. Anything that you want will work for this project. You can do butterflies, books, you can do superheroes, you could do sports, you can do music, anything you want, as long as it's an outline. So something that kind of looks like a coloring book, or any of those kind of pictures that you can kind of color in. You're going to need fabric paint. Usually when you see stained glass, it has black outline type stuff. You can use a different color if you really want to. This is your project, but I chose to use black for my project. You are going to need acrylic paint of various colors, and the colors are going to all depend on you and what you want to do with your picture in the end. You're going to need paintbrushes, of course, and if you want to make your stained glass extra secure in the frame, you're going to need hot glue too. So how your picture could turn out, I did a Rapunzel picture for an example. I said you can pick whatever picture you want, but this is how my first one turned out. I outlined my picture with the black fabric paint, and then I used the acrylic paints to paint it, and I'm going to show you exactly how and where to paint things so that it turns out to look just like stained glass. So, what we're going to do first, we're going to take our picture frame and we're going to take the back off of it. So if you got this back part, we don't need it, throw it out. There's usually a piece of paper that comes in it, but we don't need this either. Throw it out. So now what you're left with is the piece of glass and the frame. So the piece of glass is what we're going to be using first. So you need to find a picture, either online in a coloring book, draw your own even if you want to, if you're really good at art. You need a picture though that will fit in your frame. So I'm going to choose to do the butterfly, and I don't want to do these little butterflies because I know that's going to be really hard to try to outline with the fabric paint. So I'm just going to do that big butterfly. So I'm going to line it up how I want it on here. And what you're going to do is you're just going to take your fabric paint and you're basically going to trace your picture. So in my case, I have the butterfly, and I'm just going to take my paint and I'm going to trace over it, squeeze lightly. Fabric paint can very easily get stuck in the tube. It dries quickly for the most part, depending on what you're doing. If it gets stuck in the tube, use a needle or a pin, sometimes even a paper clip might help you out to clear the tube. If while you're tracing, if you get an air bubble in your tube and it makes a big splat, you can take water and a paper towel and wipe it off. You might end up wiping off more than you want, but you can clear your glass off while it's still wet. After you have traced it, so the paint is going to take probably overnight, the fabric paint I should say, is going to take about overnight to dry fully, so you have the nice hard looking picture on it. So I made an example one for you guys. I traced my butterfly already with the hard paint. It's bumpy on this side like a stained glass uses. If you've ever seen one in person, a lot of times there's nice hard bumps in between all the different colors because they use different color pieces for each little spot. We're just going to use paint instead of the million different colored glass, but this is how it will look. If you want it to look even more stained glassy, with my big example one here, I added lines here because in stained glass a lot of times you'll see the different lines connecting stuff. That might be kind of hard for you guys to see since it's just glass. Sorry. So you can see kind of like these lines here. On a real big piece of stained glass, like a real stained glass, each piece in between these lines would be a different piece of colored glass, or clear glass in this case. So these lines would be like molten metal usually to hold things together. In our case, we just use paint, and it's just to give it a little bit more stained glass looking type thing. On my butterfly here, I didn't add those lines. I just kind of like him the way he is, like that. So again, once you have your black fabric paint down, your puffy paint, you're going to want to let it dry overnight. Once it's dry, put it back in the actual frame. If you traced it while it was still in its frame, that's fine. If you can kind of hear this, it's loose. So if you want your glass to be stiffer, on the back, take a couple dots of hot glue and just glue the corners down. And that will hold your glass nice and tight in the frame, and you won't get that wiggling sound. I think I did that on this one. Yeah. I don't know if you guys can see or not, but in the corners of this one, I put hot glue to hold the glass in so you don't get that wiggle effect. Alright, so your next step after you have your fabric paint design on your glass, and after you've hot glued and made sure your glass is secure, is to paint. So again, we used acrylic paint. You guys can use any type of acrylic paint. It doesn't have to be a certain brand or anything. You can use whatever colors you want. This is your project. So I already pre-poured some paint for myself. And with my big one here, I found a kind of cool way to paint. I found that if you kind of swirl a couple colors together on your plate, it kind of gives it almost like a tie-dye type look, and it turns out pretty cool. When you're painting, it is and it isn't like painting or coloring in a coloring book. You're gonna want to stay in the lines, but at the same time, you don't have to completely stay in them. If you go over a little bit, or if you're right on the line, it's not gonna show on the front, as you can see. But on the back, so this is what it looks like on the back. So it's kind of a mess. But when you add in all those extra lines, it looks pretty cool. So I'm gonna put some paint on my butterfly here and show you what it's gonna do. You do not want to paint on the puffy side. So the part that's bumpy, you do not want to put paint on that side. You're gonna put it on the back. So let me grab my paintbrush here. I'm going to try that swirly thing again, and I'm going to take some of this teal and some of this purple and give my butterfly's body some color. Like I said, on the back it's not going to look perfect. It's going to look kind of wonky weird, but on the front that's gonna look pretty cool. I'm going to do, let's see, I'm just gonna do a few colors to give you guys kind of like an example of how yours will look. Add some yellow. So when you're painting, usually, you do the nice strokes and everything. I found out through experimenting that if you don't have enough paint on your brush, those strokes are going to show through on the other side of the glass and kind of look kind of funky. So it's okay to like really layer that paint on there. If it's thick, it's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. The only thing that might happen is that it might take a little bit longer to dry. But that's okay, because you're doing this at home, and hopefully you got a spot to put it off to the side. So just leave it overnight and let it dry. Let's see. What else I got? It's teal. Let's do a little bit of teal here. Bit more color. And it's okay if your paint colors touch. That it's those black lines on the front that are gonna make these look like stained glass. And if you mess up your paint, just like with the black puffy paint, you can take a paper towel and some water and wipe it off while it's still wet. Once it's dry though, it's not going to come off. Let's mix these two and see what happens. Add in a little bit more. Alright, so I didn't finish it, but I did add some different colors around. Oops, got a couple little splashes on the outside there. Let's just wipe them off. Alright, so on the back, it looks like this. So not much to look at, kind of sloppy, but you turn it around. I can't put it right up against the paper towel, but it looks like that. So it looks much nicer, much cooler. So I want you guys to give this a shot, see what you can come up with, share your pictures on Instagram or Facebook or wherever and tag us. Write in the comments what your pictures were and let us know if they turned out nice, or if you had any other tips that you found out, like, ooh, I did this and it turned out really nice, or it worked really well for me. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and I think that's it for today. I hope you guys had fun, and we'll see you next time for the next edition of Teen Art Club. Bye!